Hello, welcome to Enchantment of Eternity. This is just an impromptu live thing. I do this from time to time when I have some things I want to talk about, but I'm too busy doing other videos. Like I try to limit myself to 4 videos a week, and even that is a bit much. But doing these live stuff, I'm able to just blurt out shit at the top of my head. So talk about some stuff that I want to talk about. So I don't expect much. I didn't announce this ahead of time. I don't expect much activity in the chat because it's an ungodly hour for most people around the world. It's 11:30 at night here for me in New Zealand. I think it might be midday for those in Europe, so maybe we get some Europeans in the chat. But anyway, as the title of this video says, I want to talk about Game of Thrones, the movie La La Land, which I saw recently, and the newest episode of Black Sails. Now, I do my Black Sails reviews, but I won't be able to do an episode review of it this week because I can't do one every week, because then if I do one every week, then there's other videos, then I have to push aside all these other videos, and I want to have some variety in my channel and do some other videos. But a few things I wanted to say about Black Sails, but I will save the Black Sails review to the end of the video because that's going to be full on spoilers. So those of you who haven't seen Black Sails, which I would imagine is most of you because it's a highly underrated show, not enough people are watching it. But those of you who haven't seen it can bail out before I get to that part, because I'll save that to the end. My other discussions will be spoiler free. So if you haven't seen La La Land or up to date with Game of Thrones production leaks, don't worry about any of that. I won't be spoiling any production leaks or production news for season 7 or anything like that. I mean, you should be up to date on season 6 at least, but most people are. And La La Land is spoiler free. So let me first talk about Game of Thrones. The main thing, like my brother made this, Atkin Tomko made an announcement on his channel a couple weeks ago, like 1 week ago, and well, maybe a couple weeks, I don't know, a while ago. And then I reasserted this in my latest predictions video, which I'll be doing another predictions video tomorrow. Hopefully, I can never promise that. My aim is to get it done tomorrow, but it always depends on how long it takes me. And I'll announce it again, but I am announcing it again here. We are doing a top 10 Game of Thrones episodes video decided by the viewers, by you, not by me and him, although we get our 2 cents, but our votes don't count any more than yours do. And I've only gotten 2 submissions so far. I know he's gotten a lot more. I'm not going to even guess the number. I don't know, it was at least 7, probably more, but he's gotten more because he made the announcement initially on his channel, and we will be doing it over in his channel. But I'm encouraging you, again, anyone watching this video, please, like not during the live chat, but once this video is over, please submit your top 10s of Game of Thrones episodes in the comments below. We want to get a wide variety. We want a lot of people votes to be it's funny because I check all my comments at the same time, like I look at, because I approve all my comments, so no matter which video you comment on, I just read them all at once. And I got this comment that had like a top 10 episode list, and I'm like, oh cool, someone's submitting another Game of Thrones top 10 episode list. But then I looked, it was actually on my Breaking Bad top 10 video, and they're saying they're top 10 Breaking Bad, because I get all these comments on my top 10 videos where people give their own top 10s, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But now we're actually asking you to do it, and not enough people. Well, maybe, I mean, we got enough. Like, even if we don't get any more from here on out, we're still going to do it, and we're still going to have a good time. But it'd be great if we could get more. So yeah, once this video is done, you can leave your top 10 Game of Thrones episodes in the comment section below, but it has to be in the form of the top 10 just because of the format we're doing it. I know it's hard. Maybe that's why a lot of people are taking a lot longer, because it's hard to sort of sort out. And it's great you have a couple weeks. There's no time crunch at the moment. I'm not sure the exact cutoff date. That's up to Apkin, but we're doing our video on the 25th, so it has to be before that. But still, it gives you a couple weeks. Think about it, put them in the proper order, but please submit them. And they have to be in a top 10 format, otherwise, because of we can't count them otherwise because of our formatting system, whatever. So in the chat, there's Uh, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. I'm very bad at pronouncing names, so whenever I try, I always butcher them. Even though there's like this one's a relatively easy name to pronounce, I'm just very bad at doing it. Arlena, I believe that's my shot. Arlena Livers. Sorry. Says, I love your videos. You are awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad you like my videos. And I'm glad you think I'm awesome. That's it's always good to hear. It's always good to hear feedback and people enjoying my videos. Anyway, so yes, about Game of Thrones. There's been like a lot of talk about spinoffs for Game of Thrones, and I haven't I've actually gotten a suggestion to do a video about it, but I don't think I will because in my eyes that's still a bit too early to talk about spinoffs. And I think maybe, in my opinion, it's being covered a bit more vigorously than it needs to at this stage because we're still a couple of years away from the end. So I think the focus should be on these last two seasons rather than I think spinoffs is getting too ahead of yourself. I mean, but it's good to hear the odd tidbit from here and there, like HBO heads, producers, or whatever, are saying that they want to do a spinoff. And a while ago, like a couple of years ago, they were like, and not that long ago, maybe even last year, they were like, when one of the HBO heads was asked directly, well, it depends on Dan and Dave. Well, I knew that was bullshit. I knew there was no way Dan and Dave were going to be involved in this spinoff. Because if they were pinning it on them to do a spinoff, then it's never going to happen because you could tell how tired they are. And some even feel that they are rushing through the seasons a bit, rushing to the finish line. They're rushing to get it done. I can tell that they kind of just want this show over with. So I knew that Dan and Dave would never do be involved in the spinoff, and they did confirm rather recently, like a few months ago, whatever, that they're definitely not doing a spinoff, but HBO is still gung-ho about a spinoff. So I'm glad that HBO come to realize that if they want a spinoff, they got to find someone else. And they do seem like all their comments are like, oh, we'd be stupid not to do a spinoff, but it depends on what we can get. And I think that's wise. Like, they want to make sure that the show's up to quality. They just don't want to throw any shit out there. So there's a lot of ducks they have to get in a row. They have to get competent writers, competent showrunners, people who are familiar with the material, who do it justice. So they're all lining that shit out. And so I think it's far too early to speculate. Like, is it going to be about Robert's Rebellion? Is it going to be about Aegon's Conquest? Is it going to be about The Long Night? Is it going to be about the fucking Dunkin' Egg? It's too early. It depends on who they get, what they get. I do think that it is possible, though, that given how it depends on how the show will end, it could end in a way that reveals some information that we have yet to know, even in the extended lore, about the Long Night. So maybe if they did a spinoff about the Long Night, maybe that could tie into the ending of Game of Thrones. But I think it's more likely they do Robert's Rebellion because they can take characters directly lifted from the show. But then again, would they have the same actor who played Ned in the Tower of Joy? Probably not. So that would kind of conflict with that, having two different actors play Ned. But I think they could do it. The Dunkin' Egg, there's more material there for it, so they have more to go by. But that seems a bit, I don't know, that seems a bit too hyper-focused on one or two characters. It seems to me if they're doing a spinoff, they'd want to do something sweeping, and something like Aegon's Conquest or the Dance of Dragons would more fall into those categories. But so ultimately it's too early. Nobody knows. So I'm going to actually wait till at least after season 7 airs, because then we'll only have one season left, and then maybe we're getting down to the brass tacks. We might get some more information about it. But right now, this year, it's too early. Nobody knows. It's wild speculation at this point. Yeah, Chris Sayre says a 10 a.m. live chat, not cool. Yeah, well, actually, 10 a.m. is not too bad because it's probably like 5 a.m. for some people in the States. So you're actually not that bad at all. But I said that at the start of this chat. I'm doing it at 11:30 at night for me. I don't care. I'm throwing whatever out the window. Who cares? I'm just doing it. But it's just an impromptu bullshit. Anyway, so Game of Thrones. Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to say is with Dan and Dave, like a couple years ago, well, no, I'll start with Dan and Dave announced that they were doing a season 7, probably going to have 13 episodes left of the entire series. So season 7 would have 7, season 8 would have 6. That's what they said, probably. And a lot of people were taking this as the word of God, like it's written in stone. Now, it has been confirmed that season 7 will have 7 episodes, so that much is certain because of production leaks or whatever. But with season 8, nothing's been confirmed. And I think it frustrates me that people can't get this to their head. Nothing has been confirmed. Because like a couple years ago, just like 2 or 3, you can check out videos on my channel from like 3 or 2 years ago before season 5 aired and even after season 5 aired, where people were convinced that it was the word of God. It was edged in stone. It cannot be changed. That there would only be 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, and season 7 would be the final season. And I kept saying over and over again, please listen to me. As nothing is confirmed. Maybe season 7 will be the final season. Maybe it will be season 8. I think I went on record saying that it was more likely that aliens would land on Earth than season 7 be the final season of Game of Thrones. Maybe I actually pitched it at season 9, but it turns out that I was a bit off. But it's not going to be season 7, so aliens aren't landing on Earth. So we don't know about season 8. It's the same sort of situation. Some people were like, "Oh, it's definitely going to be 6." And then recently, HBO came out and say, "Well, it's not decided yet, but we want to do more." So now people are saying, "Oh, it's definitely going to be more than 6 now." That's not what he said. He said it's still not confirmed. So it's all going to depend on what Dan and Dave want to do. And if they still want to do 6, then they're going to do 6. But HBO is going to sort of try to pressure them to do more than 6. So maybe it will be more than 6. Ultimate point, we do not know. So if anyone says it is definitely for sure written in stone that season 8 will be 6 episodes, don't believe them. Don't believe it until it's been officially confirmed by official sources from the show, which I don't think will happen until, at the very least, till we're a lot closer to season 7 airing. Maybe not until season 7 actually starts airing. Anyway, I mean, I'm sort of still a bit irritated that these people who said that season 7 was written in stone, the final season, they're not coming out and admitting they're wrong. They're just brushing it, pretending like they never said that. And there was a lot of people too. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's move on from Game of Thrones. I don't want this chat to go on for too long because I'm not having a chance to do Black Sails or The Expanse this week. Sorry to The Expanse fans, because I'm covering the 100 and I'm trying to get caught up on the 100 so I can do a full review for the first 3 seasons, because the 100 season 4 premiere actually happened last week, but I was too busy with Black Sails and The Expanse. And it came, like, the premiere episode of 100 came out the exact same day, same night, as the season finale of Vikings and the 2-part season premiere of The Expanse. So I was far too busy to cover it, but I did watch it, and I will be covering it next week when the second episode comes out. So I want to get caught up on the 100. So that's why I don't really have time to do any of these other videos, and that's why I'm just throwing shit out in this this bullshit chat, whatever. La La Land. Let me get into La La Land because this is an interesting movie. Like, I told myself I wasn't going to see this because it was done by the creators of Whiplash, which the more I think about that movie, the more I don't like it. And I know that's a very unpopular thing to say because a lot of people thought it was the best movie of that year. It was nominated for an Oscar. A lot of people said it should have won. The more I think about that movie, the more I don't like it. And that's mainly because it seems to be, I don't know, because I thought the main character that Miles Teller played, he was a bit of a douche. I'm sorry, I don't like it. Like when he's all serious about wanting to be the best drummer ever, and someone says, "Well, isn't music subjective?" and he got all pissed off at him. I would be that person. I would be like, "You're being a dumbass. Music is subjective," and it's also promoting the teacher who's a total dick. And I can't stand that style of teaching. I've had teachers like that rather recently, and they're not helpful. They hinder my learning. And so many of my other students were like, "Oh, I love that teacher. I learned so much from her." I didn't learn jack shit from being called names and being thrown shit at. That is not, I guess everyone has different learning styles, but that's not inducive. And the ending of that film kind of promoted that kind of asshole teaching. And a lot of people are saying that J.K. Simmons' the best performance ever. I'm sorry, but I think I liked what's his face, who was in Birdman, supporting actor, blanking on his name, who's apparently played a character who was much like him in real life. The dude was in Fight Club. Why am I blanking on his name? If there's anyone in the chat, I'm sure they'd tell me, but I'm doing an ungodly hour. Edward Norton, yeah, he actually deserves supporting actor. And every time I say this, I get like tomatoes thrown at me and a lot of hate. How can you say that? J.K. Simmons, he wasn't bad in that role, but he was just doing the exact same character he plays in every single movie and show he's in. That's the guy from Spider-Man. That's the dude from Oz. And why do you deserve supporting actor for playing the exact same role that you always play? And I don't know. Anyway, I've gotten off track on Whiplash. So let me talk about La La Land. So for that, my feelings of Whiplash sort of soured me. And, of course, the big thing that made me not want to see La La Land it's a musical. And I hate musicals. I should clarify. I hate films that are musical. I think it's a totally different thing to see a stage play that's a musical. That's different. I think musicals have no business in films, and it sort of reminded me of the movie Chicago in 2002, which was won Best Picture at the Oscars, and a lot of people were saying it's the best movie ever. So it's like, oh, okay, well, won Best Picture, I should check it out. And I didn't make it all the way through. I was so disgusted. I wanted to throw up. That movie is so bad. I hate it. I fucking hate Chicago. It sucks. So, and a lot of people who love La La Land will say, a disclaimer, I love musicals. I love classic Hollywood. And for me, it's the opposite. I have a bias. So I did a live discussion with Chris Hartwell, really cool guy. It's an awesome channel. We talked about our favorite movies of 2016, and he named his as La La Land, and I hadn't seen it at that point. And I didn't want to, he loved it, and I'm not putting his opinion down at all. If he loved, that's his thing. That's what he loved. Hey, good for you. But I was uncertain. But I heard so much, like, people who love it and then people who hate it. And this is the same with Westworld, because I wasn't originally intending to see Westworld, but then so many people were saying, oh, you got to watch Westworld. It's awesome. And then other people, like my brother, was like, it's not that good, actually. So it makes me curious to see where I'll fall. So that's why I watched La La Land, because I was curious to see where I would draw the line. But I knew, like, I went in, I didn't want to hate the movie, I'll put it that way, but I wasn't expecting to hate it, because I know I don't like musicals. But I was hoping that I would like it. I was hoping I was wrong, and I was hoping that these people were right, that it was a good movie. Now, what did I think of it? Well, the first, almost hour, I would say, or especially the first half hour, I wanted to leave. I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into? Why am I watching this? And more importantly, I was thinking, how the hell can anyone else find this entertaining? It's dumb. And again, that's nothing against this movie specifically. It more has to do with musical films in general. And I should mention that I'm not a fan of classic Hollywood. And it seems like this film was giving a huge blowjob hand job to classic Hollywood. So those who are fans of classic Hollywood will enjoy this film. And that's why I think, hands down, there's no doubt about it, no question it's going to win Best Picture, because the Oscars love films that give Hollywood a hand job. It's all about, whenever, and the media in general. That's why Spotlight won, because it's about the media's. Whenever films hand job the Oscars, they'll give it the award. So there's no doubt, no question it's going to get Best Picture. But for me, I'm not a fan of those classic Hollywood movies. In fact, I typically don't watch any movies that came out before I was born. There's a few exceptions. Well, of course, Star Wars being the huge one, but that was only 2 years before I was born. And there's a few movies here and there, like 60s and 70s, that I like. But generally, especially when we get back to the 50s, and I have seen some. I have seen like Citizen Kane, some Humphrey Bogart stuff. And I don't say hate it, but it's not my thing. They all talk like this and blah, blah, blah. And I don't like it. And so this film was really romanticizing a period of film that I don't like personally. And it's a musical, which I don't like. So it didn't sit right. And especially the musical numbers, when they came on, it was so boring. I was like, I was shifting my chair, and it's like, when is this going to be over? Especially the opening sequence when they're on cars on the freeway and they all come out and sing. I'm like, my God, why the fuck did I buy a ticket to this movie? How can people enjoy this? And the thing is, like, there's a difference between stage musicals, because it's like it's an event. And I've seen a couple of musicals, and I've actually been in one myself, if you can believe it, like an amateur community theater or whatever. I was just a part of a chorus. I'm not like a both a singer or whatever, but I was a part of like a chorus and sang. But it's different. Like, it's different if it's on stage, because it's like seeing a concert. Like, people in front of you and I'm not one who likes watching concerts on TV or on YouTube or whatever. I don't see the point. You go to the concert, you see the event, and it's the same thing with musicals, because film is just, I don't know, like, some people were like putting down fences because it's like a stage play that was transmitted to film. And I have no problem with that. I think stage plays with heavy dialogue rather than like fancy cinematography, I think that makes great film. I totally disagree with the people who say, oh, this stage like Glengarrick and Lost, or like, what's his face? Dude who did Dazed and Confused, Richard Linklater, like his films, they're like, oh, this should be stage play. No, fuck off. Dialogue movies are great, but musicals is where I feel it should stick to the stage. It's just the process of film. It just, I don't know, it makes it fake to me. I never, even when I was a kid watching Disney movies, I never liked the musical numbers in Disney movies. I'd always gloss over, even as far back as I can remember. So I had this inherent hatred of musicals, but halfway through the movie, it started to get better and better and better, and the end blew me away. So far I've been ragging on the movie, but ultimately I'll say, like, the ending of this film, I absolutely loved. It impacted me emotionally, and in fact, I'd even go as far to say I love the musical numbers at the end. The last two musical numbers in the film had me in tears. So, yeah, I mean, and that's coming from someone who you just said he hated musicals, and I trashed the first part of the film, didn't know what the fuck I was doing there, but it built to an amazing ending. And I'm not going to spoil it, but it spoke to me personally too, because I actually had, like, I know what it's like to audition for parts. I was an actor at one point, even though it was like, just community theater, nothing major. It was still like, I know what it's like to be rejected. And Emma Stone actually is one of my favorite actresses in Hollywood. She was amazing in Birdman. She was great in this film too. I'm always blown away by her. And there's a lot of critics, a lot of the dissenters of this film, the ones who hated it, will say that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone had no chemistry. I completely disagree with those dissenters. I think they did. I think their chemistry is wonderful. I think they had beautiful chemistry, just like they did in that movie, Crazy Stupid Love. So I disagree with that, and I disagree with people saying that this movie is white privilege or it somehow romanticizes not having a job and being broke. I think that's BS. It doesn't romanticize it at all. I could relate to it, and it's just not saying it's a good thing. And I don't want to get into spoilers about the ending, but I actually love the sort of differences in their dreams and how they achieved them in different ways, which I know I'm sounding vague, but I don't want to give away any spoilers. The ending was perfect. The ending was beautiful, but I can't forget that first hour where I literally wanted to walk out and get out of the theater. But a great ending makes up for a lot. And in some ways, it sort of justifies the first half. I think the first half is justified by the ending, the parts that weren't musicals. The parts that were musical, they still come off as contrived, fake, stupid. I still didn't like them. I still don't see the point of them because I have an inherent hatred. I know that's my bias. And see, other people are saying, oh, because there are other reasons, like they thought the two had no chemistry or that it's putting down poor people or struggling people, which I disagree with both those statements. The reason why I hold this film back is because I don't like musicals. And so if you do like musicals, then I say, go see this movie. You're going to love the shit out of it. But for people who aren't as big on musicals, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you'll feel the same way about it as I did. So overall, I'd have to give it, if I was doing a score between 1 through 10, I'll give it an 8. So I don't think it's the best movie of the year. But again, my personal bias definitely comes into play for that. The ending, though, makes up for a lot. The ending, if I were to give the ending, like the last hour of this film a rating, I'd give it a 10. But unfortunately, I can't forget about the first hour. So this is a very sort of bipolar movie for me. This is like, I hated the first hour. I love the second hour. But to me, like having a strong ending is very important. So it does make up for a lot. That's why I'm giving this movie more than just a 5 or a 6, because I think the ending does justify a lot of the crap I had to sit through in the first half, but not all of it. Not all of it. And so I can't forget how bad the first half is. That's why I couldn't give it a 9 or 10, but I'll give it an 8. So yeah, my goal was to see all the movies nominated for Oscar before the Oscars start so I can make a video about it, but I don't know. I'm not going too well. I've only seen 3 so far, and Oscar's just a couple weeks away, so I don't know if I'll have the time to see 6 movies. I'm too busy with other stuff, but we'll see. We'll see how we go. Anyway, so now let me get to the Black Sails. I know there's only 2 people watching now, but that's probably because I'm doing an ungodly hour. Hopefully more of you will watch this in the archives. So let me get into Black Sails. So if you haven't seen, you're not watching Black Sails, you haven't seen the newest episode, it just came out, now's the time to jump ship. Check out my channel, subscribe, all the jazz, blah, blah, blah. Make sure, leave your Game of Thrones top 10 in the comment section below, please. Anyway, Black Sails. So this is a good episode, actually. The reason why I purposely skipped over the second episode, both Black Sails and Expanse, although for the Expanse will be episode 3 since they aired 2 back to back. But anyway, is because they typically are the worst episodes of the season, are the least interesting. They're usually just filler. Like they open the season with something, bam, spectacular, and then the second episode is usually just like a filler, whatever. But I actually found this one really good, especially for a second episode. It wasn't as great as the first one, but there was some really great stuff in it. Particularly, I want to talk about the stuff that blew me away was the stuff with Captain Flint and Billy Bones. Because Billy Bones, I like the sort of conflict they set up at the end of the first episode where, the two of them, where Flint said, I'm acting all in charge, but Billy was like, no, you're not in charge. And the I think Maddie, I think her name is the queen of that other island where the former slaves are. I'm just going to call her Maddie, even if that's not her name. Anyway, she was backing Billy Bones because she wanted to keep the cohesive sort of thing together. So fascinating when they show up to free the slaves that they found out that the slaves don't want to be freed because all of their loved ones are being held captive at other plantations, which is, it's kind of insidious, but it's, a smart move if you think of it from their perspective of these slave owners. And so if one revolt happens, then they'll just kill a loved one, so that's motivation for them not to revolt. And so it all has to happen at the same time. So it's interesting that, for Captain Flint, he never wanted to do this in the first place. He was sort of forced into it. So this is all the excuse he needed to, okay, well, we can't go through with it then. Sorry. Better luck next time. And the thing is that he's actually in the right, because Maddie, of course, and that's what I'm going to call her anyway, she, of course, wasn't going to go against the slaves. She didn't want the slaves' mothers and wives and husbands to be executed, daughters to be killed. Like, how can she justify to them freeing them if their loved ones are being slaughtered? So obviously she voted for a retreat. Now at this stage, it was 2 against 1. It was, if you think of it as an alliance between these 3 leaders, and Billy was actually in the wrong for not going along with it, especially once Maddie sided with Flint. He was like, Billy reminded me of a Republican who's against Obamacare or against healthcare. They're just vehemently against it, and they say it's the worst thing ever. But whenever they're asked, okay, well, what's your alternative plan? Duh, I don't know. That's what Billy was in this instant. He was just like, what's your plan, Billy? And he's like, well, let's go attack all those other plantations at the same time. And they're like, that's not actually practical. That's never going to work. What the hell are you talking about? So what's your other plan? And his other plan was, I'm just not leaving. So he was being like a Republican in that moment, being stubborn and refusing to do something even though he didn't have any better ideas. So he was in the wrong. So it was so cool. Like, we saw this moment in the trailer where they all had guns up against each other, like Flint on one side and Billy Bones on the other side. And I thought this was just going to be a Mexican standoff. And as soon as, because Billy Bones was he had the numbers, he had the more pirates on the side than Flint does. Let's see. Maggle, was it Maggie? Sorry if I can't pronounce shit. 67 in the chat says right. If you're talking about Billy Bones, yes, agree. Anyway, so they had Billy Bones had the numbers as far as pirates go. So, but it's interesting. As soon as Maddie sided with Flint, he should have stood down, because he should have realized that regardless of what he wants to do, he needs her alliance. He needs the alliance between all these forces in order to move forward, to do what's best. So it was time for him to stand down. And it was so cool, that moment where he thought he had Flynn, he had people come up to arrest him, but she was just like, get over here, because she's not going to let those slaves' loved ones be killed. She didn't. And he was like, what she did is like, are you sure you want to side with Flint? But it's not about Flint for her. It's about, she always has the slave's best interest at heart, and she can't go against that. Otherwise, she would lose her followers. So it was interesting. We had the standoff, and Billy was totally in the wrong, because he was letting his arrogance, his hatred of Flint, and his desire to not let him lead under any circumstance blind him to the actual situation. It was such great storytelling when Flint was like, all right, Billy, you got to stand down, blah, blah, blah. You don't want this. And usually what would typically happen is he would be like, okay, fine, you're right, which would have been a smart thing to do on his part. But I love how the show was like, now fire! And he just started shooting at each other. It's like, holy fuck. Billy probably just fucked. I mean, and I like this change, because usually Flint is the one who fucks him over, who lets his pride and desire to drive him and do stupid shit like killing Gates that will actually fuck him over in the long run. But this, I love the dynamic change that it's not Flint doing it this time. It's Billy who's letting his hatred towards Flint drive him to do something really stupid, and he just totally fucked their cause because he just got a whole bunch of people killed because he would refuse. And I wonder now, because most of his men are either dead or abandoned him and went to Flint because they realized that, once the other people were coming, the, Minutemen, whoever the fuck they were, that they didn't, the militia, I guess, they didn't have the numbers to fight them without Flint's men, and especially with most of them just killing each other. So I wonder what the dynamic's going to happen now with Billy, if he's going to be totally fucked. Maddie's, I'm still calling her that. I don't know her actually, but what her response will be to Billy Bones after he just killed a bunch of her men and refused to listen to her. I mean, forget about Flint. She's the one he needs to worry about because she might have just fucked the alliance with her. And I think all those men who were following Billy will probably go to Flint now because of this idiotic move. They're no longer going to trust him, and they're going to flock right back to Flint. That's my guess. But otherwise, that was the best part of the episode. That was the episode that really blew me away. I don't think it was quite as good as the first episode because it did have a lot of drawn out talking scenes. Like the stuff with John Silver and his captor, that was kind of boring. I mean, it was interesting meeting this guy, Ezreal Hands, I think his name was. He was a pretty cool character, but those scenes were a bit boring. Some of the dialogue scenes with what's her face and what's his face, Wooden Rogers or whatever his name is, and what's her face, whatever her name is, I can't remember. Anyway, Eleanor Guthrie. Yeah, the scenes between them, those are kind of boring. They weren't too bad. I liked this, and the one scene I thought was really boring was with Captain Rackham. I don't know if he's a captain anymore, but Jack Rackham talking to Teach when Teach was telling the story about I'm spacing on names in this live chat. It's late for me. About the, whatever. And when he's telling stories about that, that scene was a bit boring to me. I kind of spaced out on that scene. I mean, just say they're going to chase after Rogers. I mean, you don't need to give a long story about old relationship, whatever. But anyway, it is interesting though that they seem to present that scene like chasing Rogers was the right thing to do, but was it? Because you're actually falling right into Rogers' trap by chasing him, by going after him. So I'm not sure if it was the right thing to do. But what was more interesting to me was the scene at the end with Silver trying to get help from Max. That I did not expect. And he was talking to Max like, you owe me. And this is another situation where I think Max is totally in the wrong. She's totally betrayed him by going to this. And she was like, I love how, she thought she was in control. She thought, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to capture you. And that other guy, Ezra Hands, just killed everyone. I love how she just totally failed. She totally fucked up by not. And I think that a Behringer guy he's going to get wind of this somehow, and he's going to think that she betrayed him, and he's going to be an asshole to him. And I think maybe it might eventually lead to her changing sides. She might have realized she chose the wrong side because she's going out of her way to be helpful to Behringer and Rogers, who are just treating her like shit. So that was fascinating how Silver is just like, I'm going to do you the favor of helping me. And she's like, no, fuck you. And it totally bit her in the ass. So it would be interesting to me if she went back and changed her mind about this. But yeah, that was cool. I can't wait to see what happens in episode 3. So I've given my rating out of 10 for this episode. It would be, again, an 8, extremely good. It wasn't quite, because they had some of those boring scenes. It wasn't quite as good as the first episode, but that ending was really powerful with Silver, and the one with Flint and Billy Bones. Oh my God, that was an amazing moment. So far, the season's being really great. It could end up being the best season, or at least maybe the second best rival season too, but it's a great start to the season. Okay, so cool. That's it. I'll end my live odd hour chat here. Thank you for joining, like the two or three people who watch this live, but everyone else in the archives who checked this out. Sorry I couldn't do a full review of Black Sails this week. I'll be back next week to do a proper one. Thank you for watching. Hey, Colonel Doomsday, how's it going? Now I'm just wrapping up the chat. It came in a bit late. You have to go and watch this. But you missed the Black Sails spoilers I was giving anyway. I don't think you've watched that yet, so you don't want to see that. But the first half of the video doesn't have Black Sails spoilers. Anyway, everyone, please submit your top 10 Game of Thrones episodes in the comment section below. And yeah, but Counter Doomsday says sleep, bro. It's only 11. No, it's midnight. I usually don't sleep till 2 a.m. because of my job. I usually work late anyway. But so I'm not actually going to sleep after I finish. I'm going to watch more of the episodes of the 100 because I want to do a review of it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to submit your Game of Thrones top 10 episode lists in the comment section below so we can stand up, be counted for our big discussion video at the end of the month. And be sure to check out my channel, subscribe, whatever. I'll be back next week with Black Sails and The Expanse. This week I'll be covering the 100, so be sure to check that out, and I will see you guys later.